right, awesome. We're recording. Hi, everyone. I'm Sanjana, J&J's Fireside Chat Coordinator, and I'm here with Silvia for another Fireside Chat. Silvia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's jump into my first question. Tell us about your educational and professional backgrounds and the path that you took to get to where you are today.
Sure. So I'm a banker. I've been in banking for the past 25 plus years. I work for Kearny Bank, as you can see the logo in the bank in the back of me. Kearny Bank is located in Fairfield, New Jersey. We have about 48 branches and we're about $7 billion in assets. I've been with the bank for a year and 9 months, and I'm a compliance officer. And I like to think that a compliance officer is a guide, sort of like the Yoda of the bank, guiding the people in the bank to follow the regulations, not to make errors. We're always looking for risks, and so that way to prevent things from happening in the banking industry. And how I started my career in banking, it's a little bit different. I was born and raised in Ecuador, and that's South America. And I came to the United States literally 2 weeks right after I graduated from high school. I came to study English, and I finished that fairly quickly. So it was time for me to get a job. So my lovely aunt took me to Rite Aid to fill out an application. And our way to Rite Aid, there was the bank, and there were people outside in strike. And believe it or not, back in the day, some banks did have unions. Now that's not something that it's common. Actually, nobody has a union right now. But at that time, some banks did have unions, and the people who were part of the union were on strike. And way back from the pharmacy, so the people at the front line were with shouting about it, and then the people in the back saying, "We're hiring now." So my aunt pushed me. She goes to me, "Just go and see what happens. You never know." So I walked in, and I was very nervous. So I remember the only thing that I remember is the manager asking me, "What do you want to work, downstairs or upstairs?" And I thought, well, upstairs is probably better than downstairs, so let me go upstairs. I was hired on the spot, believe it or not. I started the next day, and I was very lucky, very, very lucky that I started with a group of women, and since I was the youngest, they were all like my mom. I think I have like 7 of them, and they were excellent ladies. They told me everything, and that time I started as a payoff clerk, and it was in the consumer world when it's like student loans, car loans, passbook loans. So they were excellent with me, and always pushing me to go to school. And at that time, I didn't qualify to go to college, and I don't even know if I wanted to go to college at that time. I was just happy that I had a job, So they pushed me to take a lot of classes, and the only thing that I could do at that time was to go to the American Institute of Banking and start taking some banking courses. And the good thing about that is that those credits help for college. I was with that bank for about 5 to 6 years, moved into the residential world, now into the mortgage world. And again, had a great manager too, not only professionally, but personally, he was a great mentor. Again, pushing me to go to school, and I was still like finishing some of those certificates at the American Institute of Banking. And a recruiter came knocking on my door, which was great timing because the bank was being purchased. So I moved to another institution, and I stayed with them for 22 years. I was there for a long time. We started small, like 5 billion, and I think it was 35 branches. And I grew with that institution up until when I left about 2 years ago, 2 years ago, 22 billion and 150 branches. So it was a great experience to have started with small and gotten so big and learn along the way. Again, I had great managers, 2 different ones who saw the potential, and the main thing for them was always, get your education. So I was able to qualify for a tuition reimbursement program through the bank. And I went to Montclair State University, graduated with a degree in marketing and international business. And it was different because I did it at nighttime. I didn't have the same experience of going to college during the day. But at the same token, it was very humbling, because now I had to work for my A's and B's, otherwise I would have had to pay out of pocket. So it was a different experience. a little bit scary sometimes, because sometimes classes ended very late at nighttime, and at that time I really didn't have a car. I relied on like my friends or a taxi, because there was no Uber. So, but it was different. It was different experience that definitely taught me a lot, to value education, because I had to work for it. So when I was at my previous bank, I started as a mortgage underwriter, and I went up the ranks up until when I was assistant manager of the department. And as an assistant manager, I had a lot of dealings with auditors, with regulators, and with the compliance department. And so towards the end of my career at my previous institution, there was an opening in the compliance department. And since I had the lending background, they needed somebody with a lending background. So in a way, like, they recruited me and applied for it. It was like a little bit of both. And I've been in compliance ever since. And I have to tell you, it's something that I enjoy a lot. I didn't know I was going to, but I definitely, I do like it. And like I said, we're like the Yoda of the bank.
Wow, that's amazing. What an incredible story. Very interesting. All right, so my next question for you is, did you have any significant extracurricular experiences in high school and or college that you feel really helped you later on in your career?
So as I mentioned to you that I grew up in Ecuador, so elementary school and high school were very different in Ecuador. Elementary school is first grade to sixth grade, and high school is 7 to 12. 7, 8, and 9th. At the time that I went, maybe things have changed now, but at the time that I was there, 7, 8, and 9th grade, they teach you everything, every subject. But 10, 11, and 12, you had to pick sort of like your career for the future. And there were 3 choices. It was either accounting, science, or math. And I really wanted to go into like science, but my mother, it's like, no, it's just too much, too complicated. I don't think so. So she pushed me into accounting, and having a father as a banker, she's like, no. And she was a teacher. So she's like, no, I think you fit better in the accounting world. So I did it, was not very happy about it, but now I'm glad, because look, I'm a banker, but never thought that was going to be, that was not my ultimate career. So, and 10, 11, and 12th grade, one of the things that it was a requirement, it was sort of like internships here. And this summertime, you had to work for the industry that you were studying for. So if it was in accounting, it had to be either in a company or a bank or anything related to that. So for the first, from going from 10 to 11th and 11 to 12th, we had to do internships in banks. So it helped out a lot to learn, the banking industry and to understand what was it all about. And since my father was a banker, I did an internship in his bank. We had to start at the bottom, so we had to be tellers or in the mail room, stuff like that. So it was very educational. And from when we were in 12th grade, one of the requirements at that time, and it was a government requirement, which was I don't think they do that anymore. Before we graduated, the last 2 months, the government pushed the seniors to teach the elderly in the fields to write their names, because it's a lot of poverty in Ecuador, and a lot of these people didn't know how to write their name. So there was this countrywide program that all seniors had to go and teach them, and we had to go there Thursday, Friday, and come back Saturday. And certain people of the government, we used to go there, and they gave you the materials and all that. But I remember just how different it was, that you take it for granted, your education, and there's people out there that they were just so happy that they learned how to write, like the first 3 letters of their name. Never mind when they were finished and they learned how to write their name, not even a signature, but just writing their name. It was so important to them. Until this day, I remember that. And that's something that is always in the back of my mind, that education is so important, that you never know enough. And even if it's not in your field, that you have to continue with that, with a mindset, and always give back. I think that's very important.
Absolutely, that's really powerful. I'm glad you shared that story.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
So my last question for you is, what advice would you give to young people who will be embarking on their professional lives soon?
Sure. So you often hear you need to have a mentor, you need to have a sponsor, and I like to call them guides. I think when you approach somebody with a word, can you guide me? Can you help me? It's a little bit more informal. Some people might not feel comfortable being your mentor. To them, maybe it's like, oh, it's too much pressure. But I like to call them guides. I always say that I had great managers who guided me throughout my career. And I think that's very important to have guides, to have people that you trust, that they will be able to help you out in your career. And not only professional, but also personal, because you could apply sometimes to both areas. And also surround yourself with people who know more than you. Don't be afraid about that. When people know more about you, that's how you learn. You'll learn from them. I think that's very important to have that. And people always say, oh, have a goal in mind. You need to reach the goal and you have to go to the top. And yes, well, that is important to me in my experience. The journey has been more than reaching that goal, because all the stepping stones, all that, it's learning experience who make you as a person, who builds you up as a person. And when you reach that top, you can look back and say, I could give back. I could do the same thing that they did to me to other people. And I think that's such a gratifying thing to do, to build somebody the same way that they build you.
I completely agree. That was amazing advice. Thank you so much. And this is such a great session overall. I'm really glad you came on and were able to share your insights.
Thank you so much. This was great.